This is Lori Grenier. You've seen me on Shark Tank hearing pitches from small businesses. Now, there's a new way for small businesses to get a loan in minutes. It's called Cabbage. That's Cabbage with a K. Just fill out the application online. You'll get an instant decision and could have access to a line of credit of up to $100,000. No waiting, no hassle. Cabbage is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and is a Forbes Top 100 company. Go to Cabbage.com, that's Cabbage with a K, Kabbage, or call 888-CABBAGE.
The Pirates and Cardinals have the best two records in baseball, and they go head-to-head one final time this regular season. Could this be a preview of next week's division series? Coverage begins Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Today on Mike and Mike.
The fans are out early this morning, Mike, and they're ready for Monday Night Football.
The training corps hurries onto the field to tend to the injured Ben Roethlisberger.
This could be an injury that they may not be able to recover from.
Darren Sproles on a 90-yard punt return.
Darren Sproles continues to be a sensational playmaker.
On paper, it looks like there is no way this team, the way they're playing, should be able to beat this team the way they've been playing, and this is exactly what happened.
From the Tundra Trio outside Lambeau Field in Green Bay, this is a special Monday Night Football edition of Mike and Mike.
Well, let's see what it shows on the replay. It never hit the ground.
This is Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Everybody go.
Having a lot of fun this morning before the sun comes up here across the street from Lambeau Field. And when the sun sets tonight, the Packers and the Chiefs will be playing Monday Night Football. John Gruden and Mike Tirico will be by here a little bit later this morning. We're presented by Progressive Insurance, and they will offer their Subway Fresh Take.
This is just fantastic. I was hanging out there. You know, they got the cornhole working back there. They got the whole brat set up back there. Tons of people here. It's incredible. The great time they have, and then right next to the stadium, so you just walk over before the game. But I walked by, and the gentleman says to me, he says, we drove all the way from New Mexico for this. I'm like, oh, wow, thank you very much. He's like, well, no, for the game.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right, never mind.
I'll say this. If you drove from New Mexico to Wisconsin to see Mike and Mike, you need to seriously do some soul searching. Let's bring our buddy Tommy Waddle into the conversation. Joins us every Monday with his thoughts on the NFL Sunday gone by, and he's back in the spacious studios in Bristol this morning. How are you, Tommy?
I'm doing well, fellas. I feel all left alone here. I'm missing out on the 5 a.m. beer. It was something that I was really amazed to see.
That's all right. As a former Chicago Bear, who knows how well you'd be received here anyway. So
that's a good point. Okay, let's start. We usually do with the Bears when you join us, and obviously the Bears were completely overmatched yesterday in the matchup in Seattle. Frankly, I thought they acquitted themselves fairly well, if not for a kickoff return they gave up at the beginning of the third quarter and a terrible replay.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they didn't get that replay in their favor. They would have been right there in the middle of the third quarter of that game, and then it got away from them. So let's take it from the Bears side, and then we'll go to the Seattle side. Tommy, what were your impressions yesterday? No Cutler, no Jeffrey, no everybody. What did you think?
Well, I thought for a good period of time they really battled, especially on defense. It didn't look like the Seahawks really had any momentum, and they didn't have any rhythm on offense, but I give the Bears some credit for that. They finally found their pass rush. They had 4 sacks in this particular game. And you're right, barring some special teams issues, they found themselves at least in a competitive environment. Matt Forte was running the football well. With Jimmy Clausen under center, they really had no threat. They were no threat to the Seahawks to penetrate anything defensively in their secondary. So it was a struggle for them offensively, and I think at the end of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter, they just wore down, as you said. For the Seahawks, though, I think this was a great opportunity for them just to get on the right side of the ledger. It was not a thing of beauty early in this game, but the second half, they found their stride defensively. They got Jimmy Graham involved, and I think they're feeling a little bit better about themselves today.
Yeah, I think they are as well. I think they may have gone into this game a little overconfident, knowing Chicago was coming to town without their starting quarterback. Marshawn Lynch shows up, 7 minutes into the first quarter before he even showed up to the game out in the sidelines. Then he leaves, again, with a hamstring injury. And it seems if you're a star, complain, and then you'll get the ball thrown to you. Jimmy Graham, who's barely been targeted, had 7 catches yesterday and a touchdown, and so they started using him, which, by the way, is a smart thing to do with a weapon like that. But, Tommy, you have to wonder, going forward, I agree with you. So even though it looks like an ugly loss, I mean, it really, really does look like an ugly loss. Can you take enough of it away when they go home and they're looking at the tape and they're getting ready for the next game? Is it like, do you take some positives away to say, okay, it seems like, well, at least in these areas we're going in the right direction?
Yeah, we only got beat by 26. I feel great about ourselves. No, I mean, in all honesty, there's really not a lot to feel good about at this particular time. Yes, they've had injuries, not just Jay Cutler. Alshon Jeffrey, their top wide receiver, was out. So they really have not been able to find any rhythm since halfway through the second quarter of last week's loss to the Arizona Cardinals. Hey, guys, it's not going to get any easier this week because the Oakland Raiders come to town, and that usually was the elixir for everything that would ail a National Football League team. But if you've watched that group out in Oakland the last couple of weeks, Derek Carr back-to-back 300-yard games, Latavius Murray with a better than 100-yard performance on the ground, Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, they're a threat to score some points now. They still have some issues to clean up on the defensive side of the ball, but when they come to town, they can hang a big number on the scoreboard. So I don't see it getting any easier for my Bears. This is going to be a tough game against the Raiders, and then I believe they go on the road and face Kansas City. And it's look, there's a really real possibility that this team could start the season 0-6.
Now, there's a real possibility they're going to be the number one pick in the draft. I would say as of right now, the Chicago Bears look to be on the clock. One more on this game quickly. The Cam Chancellor factor. They started him. He was in. He was out. I don't think that he's the reason they shut the Bears out. I think a lot of teams would have shut the Bears out with Clausen and company yesterday. Did you think it looked different in any way? What did you make of the Cam Chancellor factor?
I think it's going to take a while for Cam to get his football legs underneath him and for that secondary. I mean, they'll find their rhythm quick because they're all very familiar with one another. I don't think it had a huge impact on what transpired between the white lines. I think mentally and emotionally more so inside that locker room and on the sidelines. It's certainly a pick-me-up. Look, this team started 3-3 last year and found themselves in the Super Bowl. So I don't worry about talented, experienced teams starting slow. I think this Seattle team will be right in the mix at the end of the year in the NFC playoffs.
And then a team that had been playing well, and we were thinking, okay, this is one of the top teams at the AFC, sees their quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger go down, and let's just say it's going to be 6 games, Tommy. Greeny and I seem to differ a little bit. Greeny thinks that this could be the season for them. I think they can hold their head above water. Now, the team they have to, watch how far it gets away from them. If they do, is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. So what do you think is up for the Steelers if he is to miss 6 games?
It's going to be a tough ride, Mike. And look, I'm a firm believer that it really doesn't matter as much who you are in the first 8 weeks of the season. These days in the National Football League, it matters who you are in the last 8 weeks of the season. If they can keep their head above water, and by that I mean they need to win a couple of games. Are they going to run the table? Are they going to win 5 with Ben out? No. But they need to have guys step up, and they need to win a couple of these games. They are going to run the football. There's no question. They're going to scale back their offense with Michael Vick and Greeny. I heard what you said about Vick. Certainly his best days are behind him. He's 35 years of age. What he has to do is just make sure he keeps the rig on the road, takes care of the football, and isn't the reason why they lose games. Give the ball to Le'Veon Bell. Give the ball to D'Angelo Williams. Play a controlled passing game, and hope your defense plays like they played last week. Unfortunately, or this past Sunday, unfortunately, they're not a dominant defense, but they completely shut down the Rams yesterday and picked up that offense when Ben went out. They held the Rams to 250 yards, 6 points, and 2 of 10 on third down conversion. So it was a really good win based on the circumstances for the Steelers, but this is a huge blow. Ben's as good as there is in the National Football League outside of Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady.
Yeah, I agree. And I'd take it a step further. I mean, Michael Vick has been a great player in the league, or he's been what he's been in the league. You can debate how great he was even at his apex. The last couple of years, he's been just awful. And when he played, and again, he had no weapons with the Jets last year, but just awful. I think it's going to be worse than you're making it sound. I'd love to be wrong, but that's what I expect.
I'll say one more thing on this. We can move on. Let's remember, Cincinnati, it looks great and has to keep winning. Their next 3 games are Kansas City, Seattle, and Buffalo. So that's not like it's a picnic either. So if the thought is they're going to pull way away from Pittsburgh, let's see. Then they have a bye, and then they're at Pittsburgh. So we'll give it a little time here. But I guess I don't.
When is the game Cincinnati at Pittsburgh? How many weeks away is that in real time with the bye?
With the bye 5 weeks. So if it is a 4-week
Roethlisberger
injury,
is back.
it's exactly right. Yeah.
If he only misses 4 games, then I think they will be fine. If he misses 6 games, I think that this is just my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I think they're going to struggle mightily without him. Mike and Mike, Tommy Waddle back in Bristol with us. Tommy, your thoughts on the Eagles yesterday, who get a much-needed win, and we all know a win is a win. I was underwhelmed by what I saw from their offense. I do not think Sam Bradford looks even remotely comfortable in that system. I see a wry smile on your face. I don't know what it means. What are your thoughts on the Eagles yesterday?
Well, first of all, Greeny, I was feeling for you at that particular time because as good as the Jets were in the first 2 weeks of the season, boy, they looked bad yesterday. That's about as self-destructive as you could have even maybe feared that team could be on any given Sunday. Let's give the Eagles some credit. They did make some progress. I thought they did a better job attacking the edge with their rushing attack. They ran for better than 100 yards, but they only averaged 3 yards per carry, and I think that systematically Chip made a good decision. Said instead of trying to attack the middle of a defense, we're going to get out on the perimeter with Ryan Matthews and Darren Sproles, and I thought that was a good decision. I didn't think they were explosive, nor do I believe the Eagles have solved all their problems. They took a step in the right direction. They needed a win. They got a win. But if you're an Eagles fan, you can't be feeling that all of your problems are solved. And if I'm the Jets, look, anytime you ask Ryan Fitzpatrick to throw the football, 58 times? You're going to, any quarterback, unless your name's Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, you're probably not going to end up on the right side of the ledger. They lost their balance. There was no Chris Ivory. I think you take this game, you throw it aside, you get back to work next week, and you do what you do well, which is run the football, have a balanced attack, and get after people defensively. I don't think we learned a ton about the Eagles, and I don't think anyone should feel horrible about the Jets.
A perimeter running certainly better with Matthews, who was a better perimeter runner than would a DeMarco Murray be, who's more between the tackles or make that move as he's running downhill, which unfortunately he hasn't been able to do a whole lot of downhill. We haven't talked about it yet. Colts-Titans, while the Colts get the win, they have the comeback in the fourth quarter. Boy, oh boy, Andrew Luck, he's really, really trying to make plays, and in doing so, throwing himself some interceptions. So I picked them to come out of the AFC and represent the Super Bowl, and it looks like a horrible pick, even with a win. Did you see any encouraging signs from that side of the ball?
Well, I have a mea culpa on my end as well. I picked the Colts to be the highest scoring, most explosive offense in the AFC this year, but that was based on them scoring 29 per game last year and adding Frank Gore and Andre Johnson to the mix. Look, I take a lot of verbal shots for being critical at times of Andrew Luck. Full disclosure, Andrew Luck's one of the best young quarterbacks I've seen come into the league for quite some time. He's got a turnover problem, guys. He's had a turnover problem since he stepped into the league. Yes, he threw 40 touchdowns last year. He also turned it over 20-plus times. They've won 11 games a year. But Andrew Luck, if he wants to be a Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers elite quarterback, he's got to clean up those issues. The thing I saw from him yesterday, guys, has been the common theme with Andrew. He digs a hole for himself and his team. But he's so talented, he's able to pull himself out of that hole because he will continue to make plays and he never hangs his head. I'll tell you this, though, if you're facing someone not named the Titans, and with all due respect to the Titans, they're not an upper echelon defense, he may have found himself in 60 minutes of trouble and not just 45 minutes of trouble.
You know, our friends Mike and Jamel from His and Hers have a feature they call Doing Too Much. And to borrow that phrase from them, that's what it looks like to me with Luck sometimes. And I don't know, you can say that that's a Luck problem, or is it you've got a very mediocre team and a great quarterback who somewhere inside of himself knows that he has to make spectacular plays for them to have a chance to win. He's trying to make big plays where they don't exist in that game, and that's where you had the 2 picks and the pick six and everything else.
A lot of times it's, correct me if I'm wrong, what you think, Tommy, a lot of that is where you are in the game. If it's early in a game and you're not behind 2 touchdowns, you know what, punt. Punt is not a bad thing as opposed to a pickoff. But if you're down 14, in the fourth quarter, then you have to take a few more chances. So I think a lot of that is maybe the timing of when he tries to do it.
Yeah, in Chicago, we have learned that punt is a 4-letter word, but it's not a bad word at times. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. With with all due respect to the members of their team at the line of scrimmage, they struggle at the point of attack on both sides of the football. And certainly protecting Andrew Luck has been a problem. And then Andrew does, guys, try to do a little bit too much. He's a freakish athlete for 6'4", 6'5", and 235 pounds. He can run. He can shake some people. He's got a little bit of a wiggle for a guy his size. He's just trying to do too much, but that's a young quarterback, something they have to work on. Can he eventually be an elite guy? Sure he can, but he has to clean up the mistakes. You don't see Aaron Rodgers making bad decisions. You don't see Tom Brady making bad decisions. You do at times see Andrew Luck making some bad decisions.
Tommy Waddle's with us. Mike and Mike, we're live in Green Bay. Bills-Dolphins is a very important game yesterday as you're sort of assessing, and the Patriots are clearly head and shoulders the team in the AFC East. The Jets take a step backwards with a bad loss yesterday, and then you have Miami and Buffalo going head-to-head in South Florida, and the Bills just blew the doors off the Dolphins. What happened to Miami? They started out their season with a win, then all of a sudden back-to-back losses, ones that I don't think anyone saw coming in either case. They lose to Washington, then they just get annihilated by Buffalo yesterday. I saw Armando Salguero wrote a column saying this is one of the worst losses in Dolphins history. What in the world happened to Miami, and is that a situation, Tom, that you think they can rectify quickly?
I think they're going to struggle to get that thing pointed in the right direction. And look, I've been a Ryan Tannehill fan for as long as he's been in the league, and I've liked his progression. That progression's kind of stopped in the first three games of this particular season. He hasn't played particularly well. The running game hasn't played particularly well. They're not creating space. And defensively, to me, they've been a disaster based on what they've invested in Sue. 0 sacks of Tyrod Taylor yesterday. The Bills ran for 151 yards. If you told me at the start of this season that this Miami Dolphin defense wasn't going to be able to slow down opposing rushing attacks, I would have told you were crazy. That's been the case. Defensively, there's no bite to anything they do with their front seven. And right now, they look sluggish on offense, and they look lost as a team. And they're going to be left behind very quickly in a very competitive AFC East.
It was the Bills' biggest road win at the Dolphins since 1966. Miami and the Jets go to London this week to play. It's a Dolphins home game for whatever that's worth. Obviously, it's irrelevant, except it's good for the Jets and bad for the Dolphins. But so Jets-Dolphins this week on the road in London. In the Zone, Mike, is brought to you by AutoZone. Make sure your headlights and wipers are ready for winter driving conditions. See better and drive safer with help from AutoZone. And AutoZone reminds you to tune into Jags Colts this Sunday on ESPN Radio. Get in the zone with AutoZone. Mike, you have to pick a player who was in the zone yesterday.
Well, I mean, for the game, the expectation is he would be throwing for 358 yards and a couple of touchdowns. That's Tom Brady. But I want to give it to him just for the fact that puts him over 400 touchdown passes, the fourth player joining Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, and Dan Marino. You know, he's a guy that's led his team to at least 40 points in the game, the most such starts in NFL history, breaking a tie with Peyton Manning. So while it was a game they were expected to win, and win they did and roll they did, Tom Brady, Tom Waddle, is just, you know, that'll be the question when he's done, where you're going to put him all time. But he's a guy who is aging, but we've seen other quarterbacks age and get the injuries. He not so much with the injuries, and he's thrown about as well as he ever has.
Yeah, guys, I was chuckling yesterday. I don't believe it's been a calendar year from the point where he just absolutely struggled against the Kansas City Chiefs on that Monday night. And there were several people, a lot of people who are very smart football people who I trust their opinion implicitly, who felt that the time maybe has arrived for Tom to kind of pass the torch to somebody else. How silly do we all look for really doubting Tom in any way, shape, or form at that particular time? He's been brilliant, and I think statistically this has been the best start to a season in his illustrious career. So the Patriots they have it going on both sides of the football.
It's been the best start to a season of anybody's career. He is right now on a pace to have the best season in the history of the NFL. And, you know, with anyone else, you'd say, well, it's going to slow down. With him, especially considering the offseason he just had, maybe it doesn't. All right, quickly, Tommy, we're here in Green Bay tonight. Chiefs and Packers, what is your expectation?
I think this is a Packer team that is led by the best player in the National Football League, who, as I've said repeatedly, is the best I've ever seen. The combination of decision-making and accuracy. He makes people around him better, more so than any quarterback in the league. Maybe even better than Tom Brady has, and that's a pretty lofty statement. I think they'll win. I think they need to protect Aaron Rodgers because the Kansas City Chiefs can play defense very, very well. But I like the Packers. And just as an aside, I enjoyed Soldier Field more than any field I ever played on. Playing at Lambeau Field was my second favorite place because the atmosphere there is electric, and it's what football's all about.
Yeah. That's Tommy Waddle. You'll hear him this afternoon, his regular show on ESPN 1000. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Tommy.
You got it, guys. Be good.
Tom Waddle with us from back in Bristol. Again, we'll have Antonio Freeman, former Packer great, with us coming up shortly. Mike Tirico and John Gruden on their way. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, our guests on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. And also, Mike, coming up next, I think you'll enjoy this.
Okay.
During the previous break, I read something that made me want to. Here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to pick up this laptop. I wanted to throw it on the ground. I wanted to stamp on it a couple of times.
Really?
Then I wanted to pick it up again.
Okay.
Then I wanted to slam it down again.
Yep.
Then I wanted to find a large animal to come pee on it. That's how angry what I just read made me.
That sounds more angry than you are when you want to write a stern letter.
No, I'm going to issue a stern letter live on the air next after a word from Dave and Buster's. Mike, you want to take game day up a notch? You got to get to the best sports bar ever, and that is Dave and Buster's.
Get $5 apps every Sunday and Monday game days like their new marinara meatballs and braided soft pretzels. Awesome beer specials. Over 20 beers. I'll try every one of them. Don't flip between games. Watch them all on their massive TVs with Epic Stadium sound. Play games you won't find anywhere else. Grab your friends, challenge them to the quarterback competition in 2-minute drill, or see how quick you are on your feet in Gridiron Blitz. Ditch your average sports bar. Get to the best sports bar ever. That's Dave & Buster's, the only place to watch the games and to play the games. Visit bestsportsbarever.com to find a location near you. Back after this on Mike and Mike.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
With us, Mike and Mike, Broncos beat the Lions to wrap up the NFL Sunday yesterday, 24-12, so Denver unbeaten, and the Lions remain winless. Ben Roethlisberger, the prognosis there about as good as could have been hoped considering what it looked like. According to our Chris Mortensen, it's a sprained MCL in the left knee. He could be back in 4 to 6 weeks. According to our Marty Smith, Tony Stewart will retire after the 2016 NASCAR season. And speaking of season enders, how about Jordan Spieth? Wraps up his year by winning the Tour Championship and the FedEx Cup. On the year, he took all 4 majors to the wire, won 2 of them, won 5 tournaments, including this one, and won $22 million.
You know who else was really happy?
Who's that?
His caddy.
His caddy is really happy. There's no question about it. Sports Center with Mike and Mike, brought to you by Dave & Buster's.
Dave & Buster's is the best place to watch football all season long. Get beer specials and $5 apps every Sunday and Monday game days. Watch the games on massive TVs. Play hundreds of games only at your football headquarters, Dave & Buster's.
Favre lays it up for Freeman, and it's incomplete. Or did he make the catch at the 15? Yes. What are they going to rule it? He caught it? Touchdown. He did what?
Well, those of us who measure the passage of time cannot believe that play was 15 years ago, but they are celebrating the 15th anniversary of the he did what catch made by this man, Antonio Freeman, former Packer, who joins us on our set. Say hello to Antonio, everybody. Welcome. It's nice to see you today.
It's great to see you guys.
15 years.
Yeah, 15 years. Always great to see the great Packer faithful. I mean, they come out, rain, snow, sleet, hail, morning, night.
There's a lot of that here.
This is, and I wanted to get some perspective from you on things around the league, obviously, on that catch and whatever else it is. But there does appear to be a different relationship between the Packers and their fans than exists maybe in any other city. And that's not, look, the 12s in Seattle are awesome, and they're great football fans all over the place, but perhaps it's the nature of what this city and this market are. Maybe it's the nature of the fact that they publicly own the team. Whatever it is, it does feel as though there is a relationship that exists between the Packer players and their fans that feels different than it does almost anywhere else.
Well, you said a lot of things there, but the one thing you missed is championships.
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 Yeah.
championships encourages others to want to be owners of the Green Bay Packers. Championships brings the community together, and the Packers have a great organization, and they do a great job on their community outreach program where they make sure that their former and current players are engaged in the community and doing different things throughout the state of Wisconsin, not just the city of Green Bay. So kudos to the Green Bay Packers organization, first class fans, as you see.
Well, what I remember was a couple of years ago when they were selling new stock.
Right,
we looked into that.
Yes, we did.
But no matter how much you buy, Antonio, I find you are not allowed to call plays.
That's what stopped us.
That was the disappointment. I said, look, I'll buy as much stock as I can afford, but I want to, A, be able to call a play, or B, make a trade. I want to be able to make a trade, and they wouldn't let me do either of those things. So what really do you get for being an owner? That's like the fun of being an owner.
Another thing, pride.
Well,
I mean, these Packer fans, they walk around and travel the world proudly with their green and yellow, and, again, it goes back to the championship. So you get a piece of history. You get a piece of greatness, and this Green Bay Packer community and franchise is the greatness that these fans get a piece of. And as players, we are very interactive with our fans, and there's just a great relationship there. It's a small town with big dreams, so it all makes it work.
It really is. Well, but it just seems like so much more here. It just seems like there's more interaction. Did that even surprise you when that was going on when you were here?
Without a doubt. I mean, I was coming from Virginia Tech, another small town.
Yeah, right.
So when I came to Green Bay and I got off the airplane and I was on those little two-seaters, and I'm like, wow. College all over again. But when you get here, you meet the people, and they're friendly, and they're speaking to you, and you wonder if they have a motive for being nice to you, and you just realize that you're in a safe, great place. And Green Bay was one of the best places for me to land, because I don't know how I would have fared in a major city in the United States. So this worked well for Antonio.
All right, let's get you to work a little bit here. That I mentioned before the break, something I read that really upset me. And Brandon Marshall made a play that is going to live in infamy in a lot of places yesterday with the catch that he makes and the lateral that he attempts that actually hit a defender. Connor Barwin in the face. And it was just a stunningly stupid play to make, and it happens. Look, players make mistakes, and he acknowledged it afterwards. He said it's the dumbest play in NFL history, and it is what it is. I mean, you move on. You get frustrated as a fan, and you move on. I read something this morning. Manish Mehta, who covers the Jets for the Daily News, whom I like, wrote a piece about how the play was excusable and understandable considering the fact the Jets were really struggling offensively. They didn't have Chris Ivory. They didn't have the running game and all of that. And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? I wanted to pick up the laptop and throw it over that fence. It's one thing to be more aggressive offensively. Let's call a few more pass plays, take a few more shots down the field. It's another thing to make what is an inexcusably stupid play, as Brandon Marshall does there. So once again, you live with it. It's a mistake. He's a veteran player. He owned up to it. There's nothing you can do but move on. But there was no way to excuse that play by saying, well, the offense was struggling, so you're looking for a spark. You understand why a guy did it.
No, there isn't. But, Antonio, talk about being in the moment. When your thought is, I'm just trying to make a play for my team, and unfortunately thinking doesn't become the prominent thing there of this is the right thing to do.
That looked like desperation.
Yeah.
That looked like a team and a guy who's accustomed to a lot of success in this league, just frustrated with how things are going. And, it's one of those things where he's going down, and he probably doesn't want to go down. He wants to keep the play alive. And it's just one of those bonehead plays. I'll take Packer fans back a second. I remember catching a football, and it was a game sealer. It was 3rd and 8 against the 49ers right in here in Lambeau, and it was just one of those moments. And it was a stupid moment, but I caught the ball, got the first down, and I'm running with the ball sticking up in the air. And I get to the sideline, and the teammates and coaches are like, what in the world are you doing? And it's just one of those things that in a moment as a player, once you get to a place where you feel as though you're an established player and you're well respected, you might be risky on a thing like that, but a rookie wouldn't do something like that.
I bet they didn't say, what in the world are you doing?
It wasn't those exact words.
That was the second quarter of it. That happened in the second quarter of a game yesterday. Whatever. I mean, look, I have to move on. But
yes, you do. You have to get over it, Green.
But that's a ridiculous play. It's a ridiculous play. Yeah. And I see a lot of teams that are behind in games and veteran players that are frustrated. I never see them do that. Yeah. I mean, lateral the ball like that in the middle of a very crowded field. Okay, let's move forward. Packers on the field tonight here. You watch this team play right now. Arizona obviously off to a great start. Seattle has looked a bit uneven early, including in the trip here last Sunday night. What are your thoughts on this edition of the Green Bay Packers as they stack up with the rest of the NFC?
It's injuries. I mean, I think if you look at the last 5 years for the Green Bay Packers, it's been all about injuries. Injuries to Aaron Rodgers, to Eddie Lacy, setbacks for this football team. So if they can overcome those setbacks And Aaron Rodgers, I'm sure, will continue to play at a very high level. But defensively, they have a ton of athletes on that defense. And I think sometimes they just get put in the wrong place. It's like a puzzle, that defense. If one person's out of line, the whole defense looks bad. And they have an aggressive young defense. And I think if they can just be disciplined, you know as well as I do how much discipline means on a defensive unit. Hey, if he stuffs this gap, you have to fill the B gap. So it's going to be about discipline and how well our defense can keep the opposing team's total points down, because we're going to score 28, 30 points a game probably.
And the thing about it is, no matter what people on the outside look and say, well, if everything falls apart, you still have Aaron Rodgers. What makes, in your eyes, and obviously you played with some pretty good quarterback, what in your eyes makes Aaron Rodgers such a good quarterback?
I mean, first of all, it's a passing league. And the one thing I tell people is he had 3 years to sit behind Favre, watch all of the great things he did, all of the not-so-great things, maybe the interceptions, maybe holding the ball too long. But when he's at the line of scrimmage, he's super efficient. I mean, this guy knows where he wants to go right away, and it's the same type of relationship we had during the Favre era. Those things just carry on, and accountability. When you look at those receivers, whoever it's out there, it's about being in the right place at the right time when Aaron's ready to release the football. And Aaron's got control of that offense run by Coach Mike McCarthy. And I think you have to look at now Edgar Bennett, a guy who's been in this system seemingly forever, now being the offensive coordinator. Coach Mike McCarthy with his offensive genius. Aaron Rodgers, a credible top quarterback, probably the best in this game. Yeah. It's a great combination for success offensively. It's just how well our defense can continue to play and create turnovers.
Antonio Freeman is here, former Packer great. His Subway Fresh Take. Start your day at Subway with a fresh toasted steak, egg white, and cheese. Subway, eat fresh. Let's talk about the mentality of an offense, particularly a receiver, when your quarterback gets hurt. In Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger goes down. It's going to be some time. I think they are hopeful now they might get him back 4 to 6 weeks, so you just have to sort of hold the thing together. He's been sensational. Antonio Brown is setting records and all the rest of that. Take us now to the mentality of the offense, particularly that of a receiver, when the quarterback goes down.
Well, just for our viewers, I never had that problem.
That's true. That's a good point.
So if it ever happened,
what would have been
how do you think you would have handled it?
Hey, I was immediately right after the game say, hey, go up to the backup quarterback. Let's go out to dinner. Sit down, talk to him, advise him to meet me in the morning. Let's watch some film together. I want to be on a personal level. If I'm Antonio Brown now with Michael Vick, I want to show him some of the things that we're having success with, showing him why it's successful. And I just kind of want to get in his ear and let him know that, hey, we're going to make plays together, and we're not going to lose a beat because it's next man up, and you know how this game goes.
How different can that be, though, with the fact that you have Vic? Sometimes that backup is a 2 or 3 year guy that hasn't seen a lot of time, where you can go put your arm around him, say, I want to go take you to dinner, let's watch some film. By the way, I'm open on every single play, right. as most receivers say. But this is a guy who's been in the league, longer than anybody on that team. So how is that a different approach? Because Vic is not going to change. He kind of is who he is at this point.
Well, you just go up to him and you say, hey, I'm going to be open. This is where I'll be. Do your thing. We know that you're a proven athlete as well, but come in, run the offense. And really it's about X's and O's. It's about the quarterback following the instruction of the offensive coordinator from the head coach, and it's about boom, boom, boom. It's really not a lot of thinking into this game as people put it into it.
Right.
It's about A, B, C. You make your reads. If it's not there, you're an athletic quarterback, Mike. Tuck it and run. Get us 5 yards. Let's go to the next play.
Well, it's Antonio Freeman, and when you talk about the fans here in Green Bay, we just got this note, Packers season ticket waiting list. It has more than 115,000 names. Anyone who signed up after the year 2000 will not get tickets in their lifetime. That's how valuable a Green Bay Packers season ticket is.
I saw an amazing thing here. Again, I was here for the last preseason game when my son was with the Saints. So this is preseason game number 4, right, where basically your starters aren't even dressed sometimes. Right. That stadium stayed full through the entire game.
Yeah.
I was just stunned. I kept thinking, we'll beat traffic, it'll be fine, people will leave. I'm like, nobody's leaving. Right. Nobody's leaving. Nobody's leaving. It was incredible.
Here's another one. Favre did his retirement speech in there. He gave him 20 minutes, and that place was completely full to the top. It's just the respect and the admiration that the fans and the players have for one another. You can go in there for 20 minutes and pack Lambeau for a speech and not even throw a ball. That's pretty amazing, and it says a lot about the community, the Green Bay Packers, and the whole bridge together that we all buy into.
15 years since he did what? Antonio Freeman still looks like he could go out there.
Sure does.
Yeah. Good to see you, Antonio.
It just looks that way.
Thanks for coming by. Great to have you here. We'll turn our attention to some of the biggest college football games of the weekend, including one that I loved and Golic hated. Next, after a word from La Quinta. Mike, when running backs fly through the defense like they were standing still, what they call it is kicking in the afterburner.
La Quinta Inns and Suites gives you that kind of speed with their free Wi-Fi with a network that's now up to 5 times faster than before, so business travelers can fly through presentations, downloads, and web conferences at the speed of La Quinta. Free Wi-Fi now up to 5 times faster than before. La Quinta takes care of you so you can take care of business faster. Book your next day at LQ.com. Back after this, Mike and Mike.
La Quinta Inns and Suites take care of you so you can take care of business. Book now at LQ.com.
All right, we are Mike and Mike, and our Sports Center is brought to you by CFP. CFP pros provide comprehensive financial planning and can address just about any facet of one's financial life. Talk with a certified financial planner professional today. Visit letsmakeaplan.org to find a CFP pro near you. I'm looking at some of the Twitter reaction this morning, Mike, through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Let me read a few of these. Michigan tweets at us, Michigan CT tweets at us, if the Marshall lateral worked, does Golic still call it a dumb play this morning?
Well, you took a chance. I mean, no, you say it probably wasn't the smartest move at the time, but that's exactly how you view things. I mean, you see if it worked. At that point of the game, I don't think anybody was saying in the huddle that wasn't being passed around, hey, if you make a catch downfield and you're being tackled, try and pitch it. That wasn't the talk at that point of the game. It was something he tried to do on his own, and it turned out to not work. So, yes, it was a bad move, and he's the first one to admit it. But certainly if it worked, you'd say, oh, wow, what a great heads-up play. That's how it works, yes.
A lot of people are tweeting at us about different members of our crowd here who are drinking beer early in the morning and the cheeseheads. Mike and many others pointing out there's also a fellow with a very healthy mullet behind us today. So let's welcome the mullet fellow over here. Go ahead, play something on the horn. All right, that's well done. Wow. I didn't mean to come on. It's not a solo.
Wow. Wow.
That's well done.
Give him a hand.
Very
nicely done. Wow. Now go see a barber.
I didn't see that coming. Let's hear. Dwight tweets at us, you're putting the cart before the horse about the Steelers. They have enough playmakers to help Vic. Listen, I hope I'm wrong. I picked Pittsburgh to go to the Super Bowl this year. I like the Steelers. I do not hold out a lot of hope for a lot of success in the absence of Roethlisberger.
I am definitely have way less doom and gloom than you do about this. I think they can keep their head above water. Cincinnati's next 3 games are very tough: Kansas City, Seattle, and Buffalo before a bye, and then Pittsburgh. So I do think they can stay afloat and keep themselves in position.
All right, let's get to some college games from this weekend. We'll continue. We'll get back to the NFL, go all around with the good, bad, and ugly. Lewis, Riddick, Tirico, and Gruden still to come. But a couple of notes from the college football this weekend. I saw, it's funny, you and I, we met in the airport in Detroit yesterday. I flew from one airport, you another. We met and took a plane from Detroit here yesterday. And the first thing I said to you was, TCU Texas Tech was the best game of the year. And you immediately jumped down my throat.
Because you're completely wrong.
Best game of the year.
It was, that's a joke. It was the most entertaining game of the year, but it was not the best football game of the year.
From the first snap to the last, and I mean the last. That last play where Texas Tech had one chance and they're lateraling the ball all over the place. Obviously, the touchdown that Boykin throws off the target. That Doxson kid, unbelievable.
18 catches, and everybody knew you were going to throw it to him, and it was a bad throw, so it's tipped in the air, and Green gets the touchdown. You're right, all the way to that last play where at one point in the pitching, the big man, the left tackle, 62, was rumbling with the ball before he pitches it. It was unbelievably entertaining.
Incredible.
But it was horrible I mean, are there defenses in there at all? Do they even have to meet after this game? What are you doing? I mean, if you're a defensive coordinator, do you put a bag over your head and back out of the stadium? I mean, no, it wasn't a great game. It was unbelievably, when you watch the Arena Football, you expect a score like that. That's what arena football is. That's their football. So when you see that, you're like, wow, good game. In college football, I'm sorry. This isn't great football. It was now. I completely agree with you. I was not turning it off because you had no idea what was going to happen. But as far as great football, no.
Listen, I'm a football fan. All I want is to be entertained.
I'm with you. I
That's
understand
a top
that.
5 team in the country
Yep.
that half of us, including me, put into the Final
I
Four
have them
this
in there
year.
too. I do
who is
too.
right on the brink, and to win that game that way, and that kid Josh Doxson, he broke the single-game receiving yards record, tied the record for receptions, and had the tip ball in the end that Aaron Green makes the catch on. I mean, can you imagine being Aaron Green and making that play?
Holy smokes.
It was. If you didn't watch that game, there's no way to describe how thrilling and back and forth it was. Tennessee, Florida was an unbelievable
Yes, it
game.
was. What a comeback for Florida in that one as well. That was a very good one. I'm
But
with you.
I can make you very happy. Every single year, Golic says to me, Greeny, I really don't like the Heisman. The Heisman means nothing to me because it's a quarterback-only award. Well, I got good news for you.
Who picked him?
A quarterback is not going to win
Who picked him?
the Heisman this year. Well, I don't think it's a lock that it's going to be Fournette.
I know, but right now, who's your leader in the clubhouse?
I would say it's Fournette by a nose.
Over Chubb. I'm
over
with you.
Nick Chubb.
But
my point is, there are no quarterbacks in the country
Agreed.
who are on the level
Agreed.
of the 2 running backs from the SEC, Leonard Fournette and Nick Chubb.
Because you think about the last couple of years and the quarterbacks that won with Winston and Marietta, you could see why they won. And there were other quarterbacks as well who were playing well. But these 2 running backs, and you're right, Nick Chubb, I will not put him aside.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's right there with Fournette. But I said in the beginning of the year. So I saw Shaq's tweet, let me be the first one to say Fournette for Heisman. I was like, Shaq, you ain't the first one, my friend.
Right.
And I'm not saying I was either. There was a lot of people riding that train. That's a full-blown man, as a sophomore. And by the way, the 2 top guys, Chubb and Fournette, guess where they're going to be playing next year? In college.
Yeah.
They're both
sophomores.
will not be eligible for the draft next year. So already I hear people, I think Jamel said it from Michael, I think Jamel said from his and hers that he should sit next year. Here we go again with the Jadeveon Clowney concept of how you go about that year that you still have to play because you're not eligible for the draft. Let me just say, and let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, and I don't want to waste time on this. Fournette's going to play next year, and Chubb is going to play next year at Georgia and at LSU, and then they'll go to the NFL. But what they're doing now, they are spectacular.
Well, there are a couple of other questions on that, and today's not that I get into it, but the workload that these players have in college is something worth talking about, meaning how many carries and how many hits they're taking, and the idea that one or both of those kids, particularly Fournette, could challenge the league's 3-year rule because we saw guys do it. We saw Maurice Claret do it, and they've lost. We'll see if they would try to do it again. Because that kid Fournette looks like he's got a body ready to play in the NFL.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the other thought quickly is Derek Jeter now has to go to every Michigan game. Did you see that? They had Jeter at the game. They won 31-0 against a ranked team. So now Jeter has to go to every game.
He has to go, and they have to give him a jersey, so he's going to get himself a big collection.
Before every single game. We'll do the good, the bad, and the ugly. Lewis Riddick, Mike Tirico, John Gruden still to come.
Play to win your share of $1 million every week this football season at DraftKings.com. With 1 week fantasy at DraftKings, you can play when you want with a team you want. Just pick your contest, pick your team, and pick up your winnings. Hurry to DraftKings.com now. Use code REPLAY and play for free with your first deposit in Sunday's $1 million fantasy contest. This isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. Enter REPLAY for free entry now only at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
The Pirates and Cardinals have the best 2 records in baseball, and they go head-to-head one final time this regular season. Could this be a preview of next week's division series? Coverage begins Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.